New Paradigm podcast. And in this podcast, he was interviewing a guy called Anders Haglund. And that was the first time I've heard him speak. And I was listening to this podcast when I was flying to London to do a training with Jamie. And I don't know, it was an hour-long podcast. And it was just like, I was so into it. And I was just, it felt like whatever the person was saying was just like hitting home with me. Like, oh. And so back in March or something, when I kind of thought, okay, who I want to have here, I was like, yeah, I want this guy for sure. And then I contacted him, and he was like, yeah, I'm happy to come there, but I'm in Greece the week before, so if we can sort out the flights, I'll be there. So I just went online, looked for flights. There's like nothing, like Finnair not flying from Athens on Saturday, not finding anything. And then luckily I found one flight from there for yesterday. So we managed to get him here, something like that. So Anders, a few things about him. So Anders is a coach and a trainer. He works with business leaders, CEOs, and also athletes. Professional athletes, teaching the same understanding with them, especially pointing to how this works in the area of high performance. When you need to be at your best, be able to keep your best when it matters. And that's what he talks about, and for the next 90 minutes, that's what he will be talking about, I assume. You never know. With this stuff, you never know. So all the titles are kind of like, well, we need to have something. Well, in the end, the people go wherever they go. But I think with this one, we're going to kind of stick in that area. So, yeah, let's give it out to our first speaker today, Anders Haglund.
I'd like to start a little bit with my story into this, because I find it helpful when other people told their story into this, for me anyway. I started out as a golf professional and managed to be the European champion once upon a long time. So I got very interested. I don't know, anybody actually tried the crazy game of golf and dares to admit it? You don't have to sneak your hand up. It's actually a sport and not a disease. But what really frustrated me was the fact that I could behave like the European champion one day and then turn around and behave to me like a complete beginner. And really, nobody has changed my brains, nobody chopped off body parts. I should have the same resources. And still, there was such a difference. And that started frustrating me, and especially in golf. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like the politest of sports. Anytime you're up to hit the ball, everybody just steps to the side and goes, shh, he's about to hit. So if you miss, it's pretty much obvious that it's you. Whereas in other sports, you can always go, he tackled me, that's not fair, right? Or you can say, he hit the ball too far, I was no way I could make it there. But in golf, it just became obvious, there's something going on here. So I started out for purely egotistical reasons. If you're the European champion, you want to be world champion. So I started reading books. And I read just about everything, and I sought out everybody was the best at what they did. All in the hope of finally getting it, because it seemed like everything I got up to that point, like for example, I worked with the Scandinavia's best at inner talk, and they have discovered that to have peak performance, it turned out that most people, when they're performing at their best, feel very secure. Usually they feel very calm. And for some reason, when they make mistakes, they kind of just accept them and keep going. And it seemed like they were somehow excited but not tense. So this guy kind of reversed engineered it and said, if you just say that to yourself. So he had all the national teams walking around going like, I feel calm, I feel secure, I accept myself no matter what the result. I feel excited but not tense. So that's what we did, and here's the weirdest thing. First time I tried that out. We worked on it, of course, until it was automated, as you can tell. So I've said that a few million times. And I walked out into the first tournament and I won, right? So now it really looked like it worked. This is the problem with all the tools you get. So it really looked like it worked. So I was like, I've got it. I got it. All I have to do now, I will walk into the next tournament and all I have to do is, hey, I feel calm, I feel secure, I accept myself no matter what the result. I feel excited but not tense. So I kept doing that and I played terribly. And here's what I did, and I think most people do this, is that it never occurred to me that my performance had nothing to do with that. I just thought I didn't do it well enough. So I thought I didn't say it hard enough, I didn't say it good enough, because world champions obviously do this. So I tried to put my heart into it in the next week. I didn't only just say, I feel calm, I said it in a calm way. So I would be like, I feel calm. And then the next one would be, I feel secure. And then it would be like, I'm excited, but not tense. And then I tried the last one, I accept myself no matter what the results, and that was a so-so experience. But then for some reason that didn't work, and every now and then it would, just like normal, I would play well sometimes and not others, even though I was doing this. So that was kind of frustrating, if you've been through this. And then when I went through the next part, then it was all about triggers. I don't know if you've heard about triggers, but you squeeze your hands and you use different fingers for different things, and it's very complicated to keep track of. So I had like creativity on that finger, and then I had like calmness on that finger, and you had all these things that you had to keep track of. And amazingly, the first time I tried this out, I won again. Which got me to like, I got it, now I finally got it, this is it, I can play myself like a piano. I need to go to sleep, I just go and I'm done. So it got increasingly complex, and what I didn't see at all was the fact that anything you do anew kind of leaves a box of the old thinking aside, because you're so entrenched in doing this, but then as soon as you get used to this, then this becomes the new box. I didn't see that. I really thought I needed something from the outside to perform well. So that's when I started looking around, and fortunately I got turned into this direction, which has been 2009 was my kind of, somebody tapped me on the shoulder. And it's been fantastic with all kind of athletes. Because it was kind of frustrating, because since I've been a professional coach now for 19 years, the most common thing that people came and said to me was things like, my life is so good, I really should be feeling better. That was one of the common things. It's like, and then they listed it like woefully, like I have a good house, we can actually see the ocean, and I have 2 healthy kids, and we have a good car, and we can travel like 3 times a year, so my life is pretty good. And they will, so shouldn't that equate to me feeling really good? Athletes were coming to me saying things like, Anders, I started this game playing okay, but okay is not okay on my level. So I realized that, so I knew I had to shape up. So I really tried to shape up, and then it got worse. That frustrated me so much, I threw all I had into it. I really tried to make it happen, and then it really went to shit. Now that frustrated me so much, I got angry, so angry that I gave up, and then I played well again. Now that's very counterintuitive for most people. I don't know if you've had this in your life. How many of you, for example, have come home to your loved ones, or maybe the loved one is coming home to you, and you pretty quickly ascertain that they're not in a good mood to have a good night? Anybody been there? If you don't raise your hand on this, you lie about other things too. Okay, so they come home, and what do? Of course you realize that I got to cheer them up. I got to do something, because otherwise this night is not going to be so good. So what do? Just like an athlete, just like somebody who's successful, you throw everything in the sink on it. You really go like, come on honey, just let it go. It's not that big of a deal. And you're thinking they would go, oh thank you, I didn't realize, now that you say it. Let's have a fantastic night. I didn't see where I went wrong before, but now that you pointed it out, No, what usually happens, they go like this. And when they do, you naturally think they're on the wrong side of this. So then you really throw it on and goes like, I'm only trying to help. I'm on your side. I'm not trying to, I'm doing my best here. And you're thinking that would help. And then really that little glass sheet that can come up between two people goes up and you're not talking for a couple of days. Now, even though I put this out a little bit humorously, what I want you to point you to is the fact that if our best tries to make something better actually makes it worse, whatever you think is the solution is actually the problem. Now that's a bitter pill to swallow. Of course, you don't want to have that pointed out like, no, I thought it was them, right? But it's actually us. That's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's very, very helpful. Just like everybody's been talking about in here. I know, for example, a good friend of mine, Dr. Aaron Turner, I don't know if you've heard him any, but if you have a chance, do. I was sitting with him in London, and we were talking about all this, and I felt really high and mighty. I was like, I've got it now, I'm done. I'm Gandhi, Buddha, all into one. And I'm going to just say, like having the Disney ending, walking into the sun, and after that we all know it's happy, 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 right? But I had a feeling there was more, so I asked Aaron, I said, where do you go once you're at this level? Like, we're buddies now, we're all understanding. Is there anywhere to go? Is there like an advanced course? Or is there, what do you do with this? And he said, yeah, you can actually do an advanced course with me. And I was like, cool, what's in that course? And I never forget the answer he gave me. He said, it will actually be more of the same, but with better listening from you. And at first I was like, wise ass, but then I realized it's so true. All through my life, I've read, you read a book, and the way I kind of read a book was that I had a highlighter in hand, and I was like, oh, that is so good, And then every now and then I would reread the book, and I was always wondering, how come I highlighted that? That's not of any importance at all. This is much more important. Anybody done that? Where you see that something's shifted, but you didn't really make it shift? But that was my first inkling into this, is that if you try everything you have and it doesn't make it better, you should start thinking, something's up. And I think that's what everybody's talking and pointing to, of course. So what I'm going to be speaking for the rest of this time is, of course, more of the same, but hopefully with some better listening from you. That's my hope, because we all have the same thing. But that was my first thing that got me into this. And then I have a big hope for all of this. I don't know if you think about this, but I read something interesting. I just came from Greece, and on the flight down there, I read something that was interesting, and that was this. It was just a question. How did people wake up before there were alarm clocks? That got me thinking. I don't know. They had to work before alarm clocks. So I started researching on the internet. It turns out there was a guy called Seth Thomas, English guy, who took the patent on the alarm clock in 1876. Before 1876, there was something called knocker-uppers. Now, in my language, that would be a man walking around the countryside and knocking women up. But it turned out that's not what's going on. There was actually a whole group of people. It was their proper, decent job to have a long stick and walking around and reaching up even on the 3rd and 4th floor and knocking on the window until they woke up so they could go to work. So they were like knocking on their thing to get people up. 1876. This was it was a lot of people employed. The whole of London had to be woken up. There were not that many, wasn't a lot of animals around to wake you up. So there you go.
Who woke them up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who woke up the knocker-uppers? They had to sleep during the day. I don't know, but they didn't get paid unless they were there knocking on windows, I guess. But what happened was that once he took the patent, it only took 20 years, and there were no knocker-uppers. That whole thing just disappeared. 20 years. 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 20 right? And we're complaining right now that, technology takes over and all the jobs disappear. That's been going on because really an alarm clock is a little robot that does that work. Now, to me, this understanding has the same ability, but in a different way, where if you understand this, your job of being insecure will fall away in the same way. That a better understanding of something, just like better technology, will make the old fall away. For me, it would be such a fantastic thing if my kids would grow up in a world where they would say, "Are you stressed? That's so 2015. I mean, they did that back then. Can you imagine? They really thought that, if you have a lot of things to do, you have to get stressed. Can you imagine? And before that, they had MTV and stuff, and now it's like, because everything is going so fast, and they grow up where it can be natural for them, not something you have to try and understand, more something that just is there. My little 2-year-old, just a couple of months ago, he was standing, we just bought a summer house and we're going to redecorate it, so I bought a few glossy magazines on interior design. And they were on the table, and I walked into the room, my little 2-year-old, he's there going like this. And it took me a while until I understood that he thought this magazine was a broken iPad. Like, why doesn't the picture change? This is so weird. I usually get new pictures when I do this, right? Can you imagine they grow up, and in our minds, in our thoughts, it's so natural to just read and do this, What if we could have this understanding where you guys have shown up, and we can have more of this understanding, and we walk out into the world in a way where at least the next generation will go like, why would I worry about that? I think that's just a cool horizon, at least it is for me. That really, my kids are the best teachers I have. But that is all about the peak performance of this, is that it doesn't matter where you are, just like Nico said here. Even though I talk to a lot of athletes, it's the same for all people. We're all in those situations where we would like to behave better. And this is like the trump that you can have on your hand, just like the ace of hearts or the ace of spades that you can always put down, is as soon as you catch yourself that, oh, I'm lost here. And the good thing is that the feeling will always tell you. The feeling will always tell you where you are at. As soon as you have a bad feeling, that's just trying to kind of knock you up, It's trying to just wake you up to the fact that, hey, I'm buying into my thinking and I have a perfect warning signal here. It's a little bit like touching a hot stove. Anybody burnt yourself in the fingers? When you go like, ouch, right? When you get that pain signal up to your brain, for some reason you don't think that means you're into something, so you go like, oh, I got something here, The longer I stay, the more it hurts. I gotta be on the right track, I can smell burning flesh. I'm really on to something now. I'm gonna come out the other side totally transformed. The signal is just telling you to, hey, just lift your hand from the stove, it's hot. And to me anyway, what I didn't understand was that we have an equally benign system inside us, trying to tell us that, hey, you get that pain feeling from here, it doesn't matter if you call it stress or anxiety or nervousness or whatever you call it, it's a negative feeling. That negative feeling is only trying to tell you to take your hand off the burning thought, so to speak. That's all it's trying to tell you. And to me, that is the highest level of understanding, because as soon as you do that, it's like flipping. So it would almost be like if you imagine that my real education is as a satellite, an electrical engineer with satellite communication speciality. So I'm the guy who's kind of doing the calculations of how your phone will find you and how that voice you hear will actually be recognizable to you. So I kind of like the physics behind it, but as soon as let's say that you had all these different dimensions they're talking about now. And let's say there was a dimension where everything was the same except one little thing, and that was that all the red lights out in traffic meant go, and all the green lights were stop. And you went to bed at night, and you don't know how you did it, you just kind of floated over to the other dimension, and you woke up. Everything is the same. So you get in your car and you drive off to work. Now, the first time that you stop at a red light, for some reason, a lot of people go berserk behind you. They go like, and one guy is just going out of the queue and driving past you and giving you the finger. And you're like, what's going on with the world? Everybody's crazy, right? And you finally get a green light, you kind of ease your way into the intersection, and somebody comes from the other side and almost runs you over, and they make like gestures like it was your fault. So when you finally get to work, you're a bit like a wildebeest, you know, who's just escaped the lions. When you get into the office, you're like, holy shit, there's a lot of crazy people out there. I can't believe how stressful my morning has been. And this goes on for a while. So what would you naturally think about? You probably think about, well, people are idiots and you've got to accept it. So, but if I'm going to live in a world of idiots, I might as well, you know, take a few racing courses. So at least I can get to that place, and as soon as it goes green, I can just floor it and go like Lewis Hamilton, just go straight through it. Now that would be a bit stressful, you know, 200 kilometers an hour through every intersection just to avoid people. You know, some people do that at parties. They're like over in the corner to avoid people. So you do that, but then the next thing would be like, well, I've tried everything, and I'm still like a wildebeest just attacked by lions. What am I supposed to do? Well, I go to the Dalai Lama and really accept things and sit around meditating on it like, people are idiots, but I don't care anymore. And it doesn't quite help, because there is something deeper than that, and that is seeing that you have a perfect system for telling you when you're out to lunch, just like you have a physical system to tell you. And it just like when you're out running and you can feel your foot like twisting or something, you just go and you correct it. You have to have really bad shoes to actually sprain your ankle. If you run barefoot, it's almost impossible to sprain your ankle because you feel everything. It's only when you put a lot of soles in between that the signals to the brain doesn't work and you can sprain it. So the less you have on your feet, just like if you put it on your hands, you can feel it better. And the less you have thinking on your mind, the more you can feel the world, instead of just running around in your own little world in here. And that's, to me, is like the optimum. So I teach this to athletes, and how come that's good to them? Well, it turns out they have a lot of thinking. Probably more than everybody, because they're trying to cope with what they think is a stressful thing. So when for example, I was down in Athens, I was what they call mental advisor for the Swedish Olympic Committee. That's a good name, you know, you're a mental advisor. And then you work with these, then they're going to go to Athens and go into the Olympics, and they have all these things. I can't shave now, it's 2 weeks in, it's going to be 2 weeks, so from now on nobody can shave. And they think that I'm going to be playing good because I'm not shaving, not because I'm actually good and I've been practicing this sport for 20 years. Other people have to like put their skate on left first and then right. Otherwise it's going to be a bad game. Or they're going to have red underwear, and you can't even believe what they tell me. They make up all these things that they think is going to be okay. And you see these high jumpers, you know, I don't know if you've seen them, because they think they're going to go over there, not because they're good, but because of what they've done before. So they have routines, and they get increasingly complex. We have a Swedish guy who was the best in the world, and he started doing this. Right? That was where he started. Now, that got a bit worse as time went on, because every now and then, even though he was doing this, he sometimes didn't get over. So guess what he thought? I didn't do it hard enough. I didn't do it good enough, right? So all of a sudden it's... And after a while, that clock they have starts ticking down awfully fast. I even had a golfer who was well known. I won't say it, but if you play golf, you will recognize this. But he started out, and when he stood up to hit a golf shot, all of a sudden he could go, I don't feel loose enough. There's something tugging at me. So he would go like, and then he would hit the ball. And as luck would have it, when he did that, he hit a few good shots, because he's good. Guess what he thought? It's because of this. Right? So he started building to the point where he actually, the 5th biggest tournament, which is the Tournament of Champions up in Sawgrass, he had to walk off the golf course because he couldn't hit the ball. He had been standing there for like 3 minutes doing this. And that's when he called me. He realized there was something not quite rational about this. So just in case you think athletes, just because they're like the best in the world, doesn't have like hang-ups in their head, it's as hard to find people to understand that we live in the feeling of our thinking as it was, if you back up 600 years or so, to find anybody who actually thought that the Earth was not in the middle of the universe. It's not because you're not smart. I mean, the highest IQ people of that time couldn't just see it because it really looks like the sun comes up and the sun goes down. I mean, there's nothing with your senses. But now, you're at the place where kids could be when they think this is an iPad. Which means that I bet that when you went to bed last night, you didn't have to sit on your bed and have a discussion with yourself like, okay, it just looks like the sun has gone. But it's been there for 5 billion years. I've read about it. And it's going to stay there for 5 billion years more. 5 billion years is a long, long time, really. It's not going to affect me. So you can go to sleep. It's going to be another day tomorrow. And then, oh God, I feel so good because I had this discussion with myself. I can finally fall asleep. But that's honestly what I did when I first got pointed in this direction. I took that as another technique. So I started talking to myself about it. You know, I had a bad feeling. I would talk to myself about it. Oh, it's only a bad feeling. It's actually just trying to tell me good things. And the more I did that, the more that thing would warn me. Because it was like I had given the thinking I had about my old thinking diplomatic immunity. Like, that's not thinking. That's just me being rational about my old thinking. So it was sitting there with a blue plate on its car going, you and me, buddy, do you see how strangely you acted before when you thought all that? Yeah, I don't think that anymore. It's only a thought, you know, it's only a thought. And I would have that discussion with myself. And then all of a sudden, I didn't do anything. That's the weird thing about this. This is hard for an engineer to accept. I didn't do anything to get to the point where I don't have to have the discussion and just go to bed. So when some people ask me now, like, when you know all this, don't you want to go out there on the senior tour? Because now I've passed 50, and as soon as you've passed 50, you can play on the senior tour and go back with your old buddies and make a lot of money. And I said, yeah, no, I really don't. Well, is it because it doesn't work? No, it works fine. I've been out playing. I play 5 rounds a year, and usually I win every time I actually play. But the most important thing is I have a lot more fun on the golf course now. Before, it was such grueling work to squeeze the right fingers and think about how secure and calm I was. You know, that was big time work. So when I got in after a round, I'd be like, oh, glad that's over. I was totally exhausted. Now I go out, I have fun, I talk to them, and as soon as it's my turn, I go back to concentrating. And I don't have to stand there. When I get that bad feeling, I don't know if you've had that any time, but when I was on the golf course, and I stood there, and I looked out, and I saw water on the right side, and I got the thought that I can see my ball just going, wee, plop, right? Not a good thing. So I got a bad feeling about it. I thought that bad feeling actually predicted the future. I thought it had something to say about the future. Like, I had such a bad feeling, I have to go back and find the right feeling. If I don't have the right feeling, I shouldn't swing. Right? And that would be work. So now, what happened was that as soon as I understood this, I'd be there and going like, oh, water, plop. I just go, whoosh, and the ball wouldn't go in the water. And that surprised me. You mean I can hit it well with the bad feeling? And you can't imagine what happened when you stop being afraid of bad feelings. That's just amazing. All the clients that I have that compete on a high level, they're like, they all usually come to me and say things like, I'm going to go down to this arena, and that arena is not my arena. I don't know what it is, but there's something with it. You know, like people have all these hang-ups about special places, like elevators or certain rooms, certain people. In the athletic world, it's going to be like, oh, he's Russian, oh, then I lost. Or it's going to be, that arena doesn't work. And I said, so what about that arena? Well, I get really nervous there for some reason. I get really nervous. And before I would go like, okay, so let's make you not nervous. Now that my understanding is, to me, and it has gone up or down or wherever it goes, I look at them and go like, so? And they don't think that's very empathetic. So they usually look at me and say, I just told you I'm nervous. And I said, so? And they go like, well, we got to do something about it. So I asked them, because it's like we have this memory because of our understanding, because of before when you thought the earth was in the middle, certain things you made up, and when it didn't make sense, you just forgot about it. So I asked them, have you hit bad shots when you're nervous? And they're like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's why I can't be nervous. And I said, have you hit good shots when you're nervous? And they go like, yeah. And I just let it sit, and after a while they go, sometimes I hit my best shots when I'm really nervous. I can hit it longer and higher and better than I normally do. And I sit there and go like, so you're nervous? And now you know why I said so. And for some reason that helps them. They start understanding that, oh, being nervous has nothing to do with my performance. I can actually go out there, be nervous, and as long as I don't start my diplomatic immunity thinking about nervousness, I can do what I should be doing. And once you put your heart and soul behind what you're doing, you don't need the warning signal. Just like when you get your hand off the burning plate, you don't need the pain signal anymore, so it's going to wane. It's just going to wane off, and you pour some cold water on it and put a little, Band-Aid on, and you're done. It's a little bit the same inside when you're performing, that we have all this thinking about, well, I shouldn't be feeling, like one of the other things were like, well, what if I'm too calm then? Like, it's the World Championships, I should be coming out there like, yay, now let's go. And I feel like, it's the World Championships. Maybe I should stop playing, because if you're not nervous, then you just don't have it anymore in you, right? I hear that a lot too. And they go like, well, so I'm too calm. And my answer again is, so? we can start, because they're so used to people reacting and trying to fix it, rather than seeing there's nothing to fix. You work beautifully. You work beautifully. It's just sometimes you have nervous thoughts, and when you have nervous thoughts, usually it's about the future, and then it will look like the future is shooting feeling to you from the future. Like your future you is going like, oh, they're back there in the now, I'll give them some bad feelings. Right? And honestly, that looks like the truth. And we know that can't happen. And sometimes it's an old thing that happened, like, oh, I performed really badly at that stadium, or in one case a woman came to me that was raped 7 years ago, and they can swear that whatever happened back there is like shooting feelings to them in the now, like boom, 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 and it's like, oh, I can't help it. It's shooting bad feelings from 2001. What can I do? I can't erase 2001, can I? So I guess I got to accept that this is how I feel. And once they start understanding that, no, this is a just-in-time warehouse. If you're in business, you know what I'm talking about. Nobody has warehouses anymore. What you do is you have a just-in-time warehouse, which means a client puts in the order, and you order it yourself, and they drop ship it directly to the client. You don't have to pay for the warehouse. This is how thought works to me. You have everything just in time, and it comes up, and the less you fight it, the more you have that feel again. Like if you take off your shoes, now that it's summer, I mean, I'd recommend it. It's not that cold. In one of the breaks, go out to the other side of the road. I saw some grass. Take off your shoes and just walk, and just feel how lovely it is to just feel the world, rather than feeling all your insecure thinking about it. Just be there with it, Now the problem is, you go out there and you do that and you feel really good, your brain, your intellect is going to go, oh, I got a tool now. Every time I'm stressed, I'm going to go out barefoot. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm just saying that when you're in this, the world is so much more curiouser and more wonderful than you can ever make up in your head. That when you get the thinking away, that's why you have, I would say, all your magic moments have been unplanned. All the really magic moments of your life. When Sometimes you just drop by, you have your neighbors and you see them got some stuff on the grill and you go like, hi, how you doing? And they go like, hey, come on, sit down, we got enough food for you. And you just go, oh, I don't know if we have time, but okay then. And it turns into a magical night, right? But then it's so easy to go like, oh, we got to invite our neighbors because they give us really good feelings. So you plan a barbecue now that's going to upstage theirs, right? So it's like we got to give them back, you know. So now you even go and buy a grill. You haven't been interested in grilling stuff, but now I'm going to get that super duper thingy because, you know, if we thought we felt good that night, now I'm going to show you feeling good, right? Because we got bigger stuff. And you invite them and you do all that and it's just flat. You know what I'm talking about? Because you have all that thing about what it should be, and when you live in that spontaneity of saying, oh yeah, well I think we got time for a glass of wine and a bit of food, that would be great. Then you have taken off your shoes. You have taken off your mental track shoes. And you don't have any soles between you and life. And when you get there, it's a totally different experience. I remember, I'll do one, you know, it's better to, like Dickens said, to have some stories. We learn better by stories. But it's a new time in coaching. I had this thing, a golfer called me up from Singapore on Skype. And for some reason, when you stop school at 15, you have a really hard time with time zones. I don't know what it is, but they always calculate the wrong way. So it's like, did I wake you? Oh, really? It's 4 o'clock in Sweden? But he called me up, but because he was so stressed. When he came to me at the first time, he was barely making ends meet. I mean, he was playing on like Division 3 tours and he wasn't making the cut. If you don't play golf, that means that you don't get to play on the weekend. If you don't play on the weekend, you don't get any money. The only thing you have now is 2,000 euros of expenses. That's the only constant in the golf pro's life. You have 2,000 euros in expenses and sometimes you get money back. So now we talk about these things and all of a sudden he's starting playing better. And he was lucky enough that he got into the Asian Tour and he played on the Asian Tour and he won a tournament that was co-sanctioned by the European Tour, which meant that he could now get into this world event. So he went straight through it without going up the world ranking that high. So now he's in Singapore and he's calling me from the range on Skype. I mean, it's a totally new world. So I'm picking up and I can hear that it's, you know how it is when that even through the ether of a telephone you can hear when somebody's there or not? Have you ever had that discussion with somebody, you know, where you call up a loved one or so, and if they start looking at a computer screen or touching something, you can actually hear that this silence is silence because they're doing something else? And you'd say that to them and go, you're doing something else, right? And they go like, oh no, right? I'm totally there with you. Now, as an electrical engineer in satellite communications, I find this fascinating, that we can hear that. Because think about it. When you pick up that phone and you talk into it, there's a small membrane up here, and it vibrates with your voice. That vibration, you use a demodulator to bring it down into ones and zeros. Those ones and zeros go sent up to a satellite, which sends them down to your phone. And that brings it in to a modulator, and the modulator sends out that ones and zeros, so the actual membrane vibrates the same, so you can hear their voice and recognize and say, oh, hi, Anders. Now, if that doesn't baffle you, because I think a lot of people are a bit impatient with their phones. You know, I stand next to people and they're like, no. And I really feel like telling them, like, could you just give it a second? Just a second. And they go like, it doesn't work very well, right? Now, it's going up to space and coming back. Could you give it a second? You know, if we just take these things for granted, to me it's magical, right? So I'm on the phone, you're on the phone with somebody. And the only thing that happens if somebody stops speaking is that the ones and zeros just go 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and you go 0, 0, 0, 0, and you get nothing here vibrating. And still you can hear the difference between when they're just waiting for you to talk, or if they're not there. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. On the other side of the earth, you can know it. Can you imagine how easy it really is when you're in your family unit or something, and you're actually there with them to know if they're there, so you could talk to them, or if it's time to actually tell a child about what they did wrong. And still we speak when they're kind of looking at the computer screen of their thoughts, and you can't get in then, right? But I don't have to teach you how to do it, because a lot of people are like, oh, how do you become a coach, you know? That's all you do, really. You just notice when they're there, and then you have a discussion from the heart. And when they're not there, you wait, basically. For me, anyway, I talk about anything until I kind of feel the connection again. So now he's calling me up, and I could feel it, you know, like he's really not asking for my advice. He wants me to be his mental toilet. That's about it, you know. He just wants to go like, I can't believe it, I'm so nervous, and this is that, and you can't believe it, Tiger Woods is standing right next to me. By the way, he might hear me, he might recognize his voice, you know, like, and Phil Mickelson's number 2, he's right there, and I feel about this big, and I don't know what it is, but I'm so stressed I could hardly see the ball, everything's blurry, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, why are you calling me? And he goes like, well, I don't think anything has happened with my eyes, so my suspicion is there's something mental going on. And I said, in what way, you know, so why me? And he says, well, you're my mental coach, do something. So I realized there wasn't much point in talking to him, really, right? So what came up in the moment was, I said, well, you're going to be a bit disappointed with my answer. And he said, why? No, because golf, really not that mental. It's 100% physical. And he goes, what? But he is pretty quick, this guy. So he says, why the hell am I calling you then? which I found really hopeful, because when a human being has a little bit of humor, there's a bit of flexibility. And when that flexibility is there, you can talk to them. So as soon as I got that, I knew that, okay, we're in a different place than when you were just shouting at me. So I said, well, we can try it out. You know, I like to try things out. Could you just put a ball down on the ground, you know, where it's blurry? He goes, yeah, I've got it down there. And I said, okay, so now while you're listening to me, just close your eyes. And he closes his eyes. And I said, well, can you draw your shoulders back? And he goes, yeah. Take a few deep breaths. And, can you put a smile on your face? And he goes, yeah. And I said, can you remember when you won that tournament in India? And he goes, yeah. And you can hear him go like, this is why I'm calling you, right? So when I hear him being really up about it, I tell him like, could you open your eyes and just look down and see if the ball has gone away? And he goes like, no, it's right there. Oh, you mean it doesn't matter how positive you're thinking, the ball is not going to go anywhere? And you can hear him go like, oh shit. And I said, what do you think we should think some negative thoughts instead and try that out? And when somebody's up, they don't want to do it. So he's like, well, I can't come up with anything. So I said, no, really try it. I had some ins. I said, not even the fact that your girlfriend, you know, you broke up with your girlfriend, and her parents who really thought you were a hero now thinks you're a piece of scum. And since you've been playing well and getting all this money, she thinks that you should just have the apartment that you were sharing that you actually bought. And he said, do you have to bring this up? He's like, this is not the moment, and you know. And I said, and you can see that that was just thought going through. And if you look down, the ball hasn't flown away, it hasn't done anything bad. So what do you say? You just grip the golf club the way you know how to grip it. And you just put your body where you know how to put it, and then you just swing, and then come back to the phone and tell me if the ball went somewhere where you want it to. So he comes back and he says, of course it goes where I want it to if I do that. It was pretty cool because he finished third in that tournament. And that was such a big tournament that he got like something like $700,000. And then the next week he won, but that was a smaller tournament, so he only got like $400,000 for winning that. But he got over $1 million in 2 weeks, so I thought I was underpaid. But what I was most proud of was the fact that when when after the 2 weeks, because a lot of athletes are like this, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So he doesn't really want to talk to me. I've tried to make them say that it's as fun to talk when you're up, because then we can go deeper. But most of them is like, I'm doing good, I don't want to talk to you, right? So after 2 weeks, he calls me up. And here's what I really like about it. He didn't say anything about money or winning or anything like that. Because I asked him, what's been the change? And he said, this is the first time in my life I have played good, and I actually went to bed at night not worrying about if I'm going to lose it till tomorrow. He said, I realized I'm good because I'm me. I'm not good because I think perfect. I'm not good because I do everything perfect. I'm not good because I'm in the perfect state. I'm good because I'm me. And I've never had that. Every time he played good, he got super worried that what if I can't conjure it up tomorrow? You see how we all do that sometimes? Put our faith in other things and actually where it's going on. And he said that was the biggest thing for him, was that even though he later played badly, of course, like we all do, right? Even then he said, I didn't get worried that I wouldn't find it. Because I know it's here. As soon as he saw there was something that he covered up rather than something he built. But I've read almost 1,000 books in sport performance and all these things. And all those books are telling you that you can build your confidence, for example. All those books are saying that. And the weird thing that the people that I coach, for example, I coached a few actresses and singers, and when they get stage fright, they almost always get that after their best performance. Isn't that weird? Because we're all told that if you get better and better, your confidence goes up and up and up. And now they're at the point where you can't, this is really good, and now they don't dare to get on stage. And here's what they tell me. They do that and they go like, I don't even know how I did that. You know how when you really perform well, you feel like it was almost like you performed above your normal level? No, you got a little glimpse of what your normal level is. There's a difference. The sun is always shining, so to speak. It's just different levels of clouds in the way. So you get a glimpse of where it actually could be all the time. That's what happens. But they get afraid. They go like, I don't even know how that happened. And now they're going to ask me to be as good tomorrow. And since I don't even know how I did it, I'm really worried that I won't do it tomorrow. And then they started thinking about disappointed fans, people paid tickets, all these things, and they can't make it on stage until you talk to them about this. How you actually reacting to your thinking and not to judging people in the audience or whatever it is. It means something once you see this. And we're all trying to point it out, but in our different ways. And I think we all do it because I'm so grateful to the people who pointed me in this direction, because it means a lot in your life. The other stuff, to be honest, a lot of times I was kind of like a priest trying to somehow convince others how good it was, and if I have enough people thinking that it's okay, the other people that believe the same, they will finally work on me. And this is more like, this helps me. And every time somebody comes in, before I had like a program, like this is what you do, this is what you say. Now somebody comes in and their problems to me are as obvious as, oh, shoes untied. That's how it is. Once this goes away, and I'm not sitting there being insecure about they paid all this money to see me, and I still do that sometimes, just to be clear, and especially if somebody in my mind seems more important. Like if this person is impressed by what I do, I'm set for life. Once you're there, you know you're going to be a shit coach, right? It's because then I'm going to be from the intellect trying to impress him instead of just sitting down, talking from the heart without all this stuff in the way. No rubber soles in the way, just like shoes. You're born without shoes, so it's a weird thing to put them on, really. And we are born into that. Children are so good. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old at home. They're my best teachers. I've never had anybody teach me peak performance like they do. It's unbelievable. Did anybody see Usain Bolt in the World Championships? Right? When he ran, because I'm interested. If you weren't, I'll tell you about it. he had been injured most of this year. He ran 2 races. Both those races were not good times. There's another guy who shouldn't be running because he's been using other stuff for a long time, Justin Gatlin, who's been having much better times, right? So for the first time, Usain Bolt is not like he normally is. He's normally like this, hey, you know, because he's like, I just go in there and run and then I'll win. It's inevitable, right? And now for the first time in the World Championships, I saw it because they had the camera on him and he was walking like this. You could see him ruminating, thinking about it, like what could I do to jump up my performance, because if I just go in and run, Justin will beat me, right? He's faster. And I could see that. So I told a couple of friends who came to watch the final with me and my wife, I said, there's no way he's going to win this time. I can tell. I can see it in my professional opinion. He can win. So we wait. It's about 30 minutes more, and then they go in and do this. And he steps up and fixes his things, and he looks up like this, and I see his eyes, and I said, all bets are off, he's going to win. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? I don't know what happened. Does he know about this stuff? You know, I wasn't there. You know, ego goes on. Didn't talk to me. That's very shameful of him to be that good without me, right? So, so I was there, and of course he starts running, and they're so close. And Justin looks over. He can't help it. He just makes a peek to see where Usain is, and he starts flailing his arms, and he loses by 1/100th of a second because he got tense trying to run faster instead of just running. If he would kept running, he would still have won, but he didn't. After the race, I watched the interviews. So one of the interviewers said, because they showed on camera how his coach is like huddling in with him when he's walking around like this. So somebody's asking, you had a really long talk with your coach. What did he say? No, I didn't say much. What did he say then? It was a long talk. Yeah, but basically he just told me, I can tell you're thinking too much. And that's going to be in the way. So, you know, try not to think so much and relax and have fun. That's you. And Usain, because of who he is, he was in the place where that was not annoying advice. You know how when you're angry and somebody says, just calm down, that's just annoying? So it can turn, but for some reason he was in the place where he could hear it loud and clear. So he just said, so I stopped thinking so much, relaxed, and had fun. And that's what I see. So my son, when he was like 3, he loved to run everywhere. So his favorite thing to do was come up to me and ask me to run with him. And he wanted to run around the house. That was his favorite thing. He was always asking me to do that when he knew I couldn't do it. Have you noticed this with loved ones? Like I'm on the computer, I'm answering some important email, he would come up and say, Dad? And I would look down and go, yeah. And he could tell I'm not there, right? You could tell I'm not there, so he will be tugging on me like, Dad, Dad, Dad. He'd be like that pain signal. The more you stay there, the louder he gets. You know, so because he works perfectly, you know, but when he goes to like, Dad, it's really fun when you turn back and go, how many times I told you not to shout? Now, if you have to have a bit of humor about this. I wonder who taught him, right? So, but he's just amping it up because I'm not listening. And he goes like, can we go running around the house? And I would be like, hey, I have to answer this email first, but then. Why do people that are your loved ones always ask for your time when you don't have it? Because that's the only time they can test if it's true that they're number one. So they will come up and say, Dad, can you? And I say, I have to answer this email. They will go, okay, you said I was number one, but emails, then me. I'll just have to answer this. Go, oh, emails, telephone, then me. See, that's how wives and spouses are testing you too. Right? That's why they want because that's the only time you can test it. When you have all the time in the world, of course there's nothing else. How can you prove that you're number one? So that's how people test it out. But children don't go for it. They don't get pissy or anything. They just want to run. So he would be like, he's the best salesperson ever. So he would lean his little head, put a little finger up, and he'd go, Dad, just one little lap. And then you're done. And then he grabs my finger and it's just to follow, right? So we go down and he starts running. And I can tell you, he's no Usain Bolt. He's 3 years old. He sucks. He's running like this. This is the speed, right? And if I get a little bored and I run a little bit in advance, he go like, don't run so fast, Dad, then I can't win. Makes sense. So I slow down, and then he will go, yeah, I won, right? So, equally happy. But here's the thing now that I want you to see. I think my 3-year-old and all 3-year-olds all over the world are running closer to the potential than Usain Bolt. How would I know that? Well, when Usain Bolt is up and running at his fastest, if you gave him a little push, he would actually go a little faster, like having the wind in his back. Just push him a little bit, he can go a little bit faster. It gets lighter for him, right? You give a small child a little push, face plant. That's because Usain Bolt still has some in his tank, whereas the child is all running to the absolute maximum of his ability. So any try to make it go faster, boom. Here's another thing. If you look down into their eyes when we're running, I can tell you, he's having at least as much fun as Usain Bolt. His eyes are just glittering. Like, I'm running with Dad, right? And I'm winning. So here's what not many people understand, because we get indoctrinated by our culture. And that is that we are born with the ability to always give our best. And we are born with the ability to always enjoy what we're doing, no matter what that is. That's innate. Now, if you want to run really fast like Usain Bolt, then you have to practice. Of course you have to practice. But most of my clients, if you ask them, are really practicing to feel better, not to get better. If I really ask them, why are you practicing? Because sometimes I can be with, say, a basketball player, and they're like shooting hoops, and they miss one, and they go ballistic about it in practice. Like, damn, how could I miss it? So I asked them, what's going on here? How come you get so angry in practice? I don't know. It's like, you can't be satisfied, you don't get better. And I'm like, really? Well, so let's try it. What happens if you miss? Well, I might not be on the team. What happens if you're not on the team? Then I can't play my favorite sport, and I can't make a lot of money. And what happens then? Well, then maybe my girlfriend doesn't really like me for who I am, and she will break up with me. You know, and then, you know, you keep going, and then I go like, oh, I see. So there was nothing on that practice shot at all, you know. So they think I have to practice to feel better in life rather than practice to get better. But it's free. The feeling is always there. That's free. Your ability to perform is always there. Your ability to enjoy what you're doing is always there. It's only a little rubber sole of thinking in between of doing that. Of doing your best when it's needed. So I usually tell people like that when I have athletes. So they come to me and they go like, okay, I'm not doing so well. And I go like, okay, so if you compare your 15-year-old self with your 25-year-old self or whatever they are now, who is better? And they go like, are you kidding? My 15-year-old self, I would kick his butt so easily. And they think I'm now pointing out that, hey, you come a long way, baby. That's not what I'm doing. So I'm saying, so you're saying you're a lot better now than when you were 15? And they go like, yeah. I said, okay, so let's bring you out. Who's having the most fun, you or the 15-year-old? And they go like, well, my 15-year-old self would beat the shit out of me in that department. And I say, but you just said that you're a lot better, but you're having less fun. And at the same time, you're saying if you're better, you're having more fun. And it starts opening them up to the fact that they've just made this up in their head, that if you get better, you feel better. No, the feeling is there. Then you get better because that's what you want to do. Just like a tree will always be a little bit higher than last year, not because it has performance anxiety. It will be a little bit better because that's what trees do. And in my experience, that's what human beings do. When a human being feels good, you cannot stop yourself from looking around and seeing what you can improve. It's the way we're wired. So it's really weird to me in leadership when I coach CEOs that they always say this, you can't be satisfied, you can't be satisfied. Satisfaction is the precursor to losing, right? And if they have kids, I always tell them, look at the kids, they know what's going on. And they go like, what? Well, when your kids are satisfied, when they're happy, when they're just the way they are, what do they do? And they go like, well, there's loads of activity. They see who can run the fastest and pee the highest and whatever it is, right? They're just a bundle of things. What happens when they're not satisfied, when they're not feeling so good? Well, they throw themselves on the floor and screaming, and you have to carry them from the place. And I say, at what age does that flip? At what age does that flip so that you say that the grown-ups are different, so that when they get satisfied, they sit down and do nothing and play TV games? And if you can keep them dissatisfied, that's the motivation of really going for it. At what age does that flip? And then they go like, what? And we start talking about putting well-being on the table. You know, to see that if you don't even have to have a budget once you put well-being on there, right? Because if people feel good, they will have loads of activity, loads of creativity, they will go in and do their best. And if they're human, sometimes they will not feel so good. But if they understand this, they get back on track and they run as fast as they can again. If they do that for a full year, and everybody at your company did that, would that give you the best bottom line possible? Of course, that would be the number. So what do you need the budget for? You do that, you get the highest number. That's what the budget was for. And they all look at me like I'm from Mars when you say these things, of course, because it's hard to find anybody who is privy to this information that you have from coming here. To me, it's a game changer once you see that, oh, and it's a totally different view of people. Because in that old view of dissatisfaction drives you and satisfaction is like your lazy will come out. That worldview is almost like, oh, I have an angel here and I have the devil here, and if I don't work on the angel, the devil wins by default, because humans deep down inside are just weak and frail and lazy and, you know, sinful. That's who you are. And you can see that happening. You go out partying and somebody drinks too much and behave badly, what are you going to say? Oh, I didn't know he had that in him. But there comes the truth. Right? Or you see somebody really stressed at work and they fist their computer so it goes into work, and you go like, oh, I thought he was a really calm person, now he's doing this, but there comes the truth. You know, in the calmest waters, the biggest fish. Right? So, but that is just us spewing out our understanding in the world, that we see people and ourselves as lacking, instead of seeing that when you're imbalanced, that's your true self. And the other thing is just, you know, thought-created misperception of how the world is going on, and that's not you. That's the creation. Who you are when you're in balance, that's the real stuff. So I thought I was going to give you just a little bit of an example of this. So here are two questions. The first one. How many of you right now feel like you're healthy? How many feel like you're healthy? Like you could run a flight of stairs and won't go doof, doof, doof. Some of you, it's fall and, you know, there's some things setting in and so forth, right? But how many was it? How many feel like I'm healthy? Okay, cool. Now, how does it feel to be healthy? Now, even though I have the lights here, I was trying to see your faces, and here's what's funny to me. I say, how many in here are healthy? And this is what I see. I'm healthy. And then I ask, how does it feel to be healthy? And all of you go like, good. Right? Now, mental health and physical health are the same. It's so natural that you don't even see it, so to speak. You almost have to take a little peek to understand how good it is to not feel bad. See, but we walk around in it, so it's only when we really feel bad that we go like, oh, I wish this would go away. And when the stomach flu is gone, it's like, this got to be the best water I've ever tasted. Has anybody done anything to this water? Because, I just can't stop drinking it. And that's when you know you're on your way to getting better. But this is the same thing. We think that when we take away the other stuff, what's left is neutral, but what's left is health. And health, when you take a peek, is like, yeah, that's good, I'm healthy. So we walk around every day. I haven't met anybody who is not going in and out of the well-being that is always there. Because since your internal sunshine is always there, just covered up sometimes, but with rubber soles or whatever you'd call that thinking. You flow into it. All of a sudden you sit there and you answer emails and it's like, and 45 minutes is gone and you haven't been aware of time or anything. But you never stop to see that, oh, I was happy. Because it felt like we were just answering emails. It's like health, right? It's just, you didn't realize that was 45 minutes of goodness right there. It's just that I chose to feel good and do this. And when you have that feeling, emails is fun to answer. Right? So, since we're in Finland and it's close to Sweden in some ways, I'll use this as an example because it turns out that most people understand what we're talking about when they're going to go partying. Have you noticed? Because we all know you don't go partying without having a party first at somebody's, right? Here up in Scandinavia, you got to have pre-parties, right? So, and why do you have the pre-party? To get in the party mood, right? So you're like, oh, alcohol is too expensive out there. We're taxed all of the way up here. So hey, somebody buy it and bring it home or make it yourself. And we're going to pour it down to see if we can get into a party mood. And then we play music and we fix up ourselves. And like, yeah, I'm looking good, right? And why do we do it? Because we have an innate sense of the fact that if I'm not in a party mood, it doesn't matter where I go, it's going to suck. Right? And if I'm in a party mood, it doesn't matter where I go, it's going to be fun. So if you go out and you're not in a party mood, it's not going to be pretty. If you go out and you're in a party mood, have you noticed? You can actually go to the club, be innocently kicked out of the club. Somebody else made a ruckus, but the doorman thought it was you, so everybody's pointing in your direction, so they're just going, and you're like, oh, it wasn't me, it was that guy, and you get kicked out. You're standing out in the rain making faces at the doorman. It's going to be a magical night. You're going to be telling about it, right? Because when you're in a party mood, that's fun. When you're not in a party mood, however, you can get into the flashiest club and all you go is like, I don't know why I came here. It's such a meat market. People are so shallow. They're all about how they look and and you're going to be totally convinced that it's all about the people, the club, the rain, the doorman, and not seeing it's about the party mood, right? And a lot of people are just, once you plug into this, you start being in a party mood more often because you see that you bring it with you. And you see that it's there all the time and it's just covered rather than you have to build it somehow. You don't have to listen to just that music or dance that way or drink that substance or, all of a sudden that goes away because you see if I'm feeling it, it's actually coming from me. So when you feel magical, it's coming from you. Just think about taking credit for that, right? It's a beautiful thing. Now, the downside might seem like when I'm feeling really crappy, it's me too, right? But that's a good thing too, because once you see it, it's not as bad. And once you see it through it, you can do what athletes do and you can start performing even though you're nervous. You can go up and say hi to somebody you find attractive, even though you feel like you're about to puke. You can do what you do and put your heart and soul behind it, no matter the feeling. And once you do, the feeling doesn't need to warn you anymore, and you're back in the now and feeling what you're feeling. And to me, that's just fantastic. So I'm going to finish off with a little story. To me, that's my most proud moment. It's not going to be about sports. Some of you might think that, oh, he's going to tell us all about when he won this tournament and that. But here's my proudest moment in my entire life so far. And my son, this is quite recently, I got to the place, I don't know if you've been there, but once you start getting into this, I got to the place where I could be loving with him no matter what he did. So he could like kick me and he would throw things and I'd just be like, I'm sorry, you can't sit at a table if you start throwing things. Whereas before I'd be like, that's enough. right? See, there's two different ways of kind of stopping them from throwing stuff at the table. But without the feeling, I'd be like, well, you can't sit at a table right now. And he would be like, nah. And I'd be like, you know, as soon as you calm down, everything will look different. And he would look, I am calm, right? So, and I would tell him like, no, listen to me now. The way I sound and the way I feel, that's calm. And you can only say that if that's true. Because kids just like, they just got you, right? So I got to that point again. And this happens with regularity. And I can't believe I buy into it every time. But every now and then I feel like my understanding of this goes up to the point where I feel like, okay, I'm there. And now I should see it coming, but I don't. I don't know why I don't see this coming. Every time I think I have it, the universe is going to kick my butt. And you would think after 4 or 5 times you would like be wise up to it, but I don't for some reason. So I'm there like I had this particular good thing with my son where he was really difficult, and I was just like feeling the love, and he just calmed down, and he, you know. So I actually told my wife, he has no in on me anymore. The remote control to my feelings has been put down. I took out the batteries, right? So I felt like I should be Dad of the Year, right? And now you know universe is going to kick your ass. So the next day, we're having dinner. And when we're having dinner, all of a sudden, he freaks out about the food. There's something on the plate that shouldn't be there. So he's like, oh, I don't like that. Why did you put broccoli on my plate? And you know, my wife's saying, you ate it fine yesterday, and you eat whatever we put in front of you. And he goes like, nah, and he takes the broccoli and just goes, whack. And we have white walls. I don't know, so I'm still calm. You know, my attitude to my kids nowadays is more or less they're going to cost me like, you know, a few $100,000 in damage, and who cares how much of it is today. So I walk up to him and say, Vince, as his name is, I said, Vince, you can't be at the table if you do that. So I'm there, I'm feeling like Dalai Lama, Gandhi, all rolled into one. A little bit of Nelson Mandela in the pocket. You know, we're talking, I'm Dad of the Year. So I'm just lifting it up very lovingly. And out of nowhere, and I don't know even, I'm totally unaware of this, he just does this. Boom, and clocks me really hard. And I found out I have a problem with being hit in the face. I had no idea. I had this fireball just running up through my body, and I wanted to physically hit him back. Every fiber of my body wanted to show him that you think you got me good? I'm going to show you how you know, I'm going to destroy you. Right? I was at that point. I'm honestly, I had that like that. But fortunately now, at least with this understanding, when I feel that so strongly, I know it's a warning signal. And all I had was I held him, and I'm bleeding from the lip. Right? I held him, and I just turned to my wife and said, here, you have to take him. I cannot be here anymore. And that was all I had, you know. So I walked straight out of dinner. I walked up, and I was so frustrated because, you know, I thought I had it. So this was like a rude awakening to me. I was like in no mood for eating. I actually just went into the bathroom, threw off my clothes, and went into the shower. I didn't know what to do. So I was standing there going like, I really felt like a success coach. I really felt... I really felt that all my successes with people were drained away in that moment. Like I was a piece of shit, and I was there going like, I really felt like I should have a gold star for not hitting my kid. That's where I am right now. I felt like I did good not to hit him. That's where it's taking me. These 3 principles are really helping, right? So. And for some reason, at least I got to the point, before I would have made up things, if that happens again, I will do this number 1 and this number 2 and that number 3, and I would make a plan. Now, at least I have the understanding that's not where it's at. So the only thing I did, I was standing there, and for some reason, something came up, and I just said, I really, really, really want to be more loving if that happens again. But I have no idea how to do it. I just gave in. And then I don't think about it at all. And everything goes back to normal, like it does. And then this happens. 5 days later, we're coming down to have breakfast. I have prepared the porridge, and I know that he likes to have raspberries in it, so I put raspberries in it. I've done everything because we're in a bit of a hurry, so I want him to step up, eat, and then go to kindergarten. I've got to go to coaching. So everything's good. I wake him up. He's full of sunshine. He's like, "Hi, Dad." And we have this little song singing, like, you know, saying it's a new day and stuff. So we're walking down, and we're coming up, and he jumps up into the seat like this, and he goes, "Raspberries!" Right? And I'm like, "Yeah, you like raspberries." "I didn't want them. I wanted black currants today. And you know I wanted them, and still you put that in there." And I'm calm, and I'm going like, "Well, I'm sorry, it's raspberries, you know." So he gets this thing, and he takes the spoon, and he throws it through the kitchen. It's like one of those slow motion moments where it's like, "Wing, wing, wing." And I can, as an engineer, I kind of can project where it's going to land, and I know it's not going to be good, because right in the sink we have like these crystal things, glasses from last night, and you could see it, and you know I'm not going to make it. It's like one of those, "Oh shit," right? So, and it lands in those glasses, and it just, you know, when you say something shatters in 1,000 pieces, that was kind of an understatement. It just went, and we had little shards of glass and crystal all over the kitchen. Not good. Now it's going to be cleaning and stuff, because little brother is not 2 yet, so he can't climb around in that, right? So, but I feel calm. I'm surprised. I'm like, "Well, you can't be. I have to clean up this mess," and he's still upset. So when he walks by, we have these chairs, high chairs, you know, like, and he's just doing this. He's looking at me and doing this. Boom. Boom. And he's really trying, right? And for some reason, I don't get upset. And I said, "We don't do that. You're just a little upset. We need to clean this up. You want to help vacuum?" And when he sees that he can't get to me, he's like, "What else can I do?" And there's a painting that I really like, a big painting that's like in the next room. So he runs over there, grabs the bottom of it, and pulls it out of the wall. You know, it's just like, "It's gonna fall. It's gonna fall," right? And now I go up and I grab him, and I say, "Well, you can't do that. You know, we don't destroy things. In our family, we try to leave it better than we found it. So, you know, so let's talk." So I sit him down. I'm sitting there crossed legs. I'm putting him down there, and I lean in to talk to him, and I had no idea he'd been loading up, right? So I'm meeting it. I'm like walking right into it, just go boom, and it's worse than the other time. But this time, I don't get irritated. And I had not worked on that. I had not done anything. I just went like, walked right into that one, didn't I? That was my reaction to it. And now he does it again. He's loading up for the second one. But he's 5, he's small, so now that I see it coming, I just go like that. And out of nowhere, I do this. And kiss his fist on the way back. And you just feel the difference. Right? But that doesn't stop him from doing a third one. But the third one is kind of half-assed, you know, like just to check what the hell happened, right? So he's like that, and I kiss him again. And he turns around in my lap and looks into my eyes, and he goes, "Dad." That's the most loving thing he has done to me. Because I could tell that he knew that Dad loves me no matter what I do. And it just shifted everything. And I promise you, if I was standing in that shower and I'm going to give a top 10 list of things to do, kissing the fist that hit me would not be on it. There's no way I'd come up with that, you know? And there's no way for anybody else to do it. It was in the moment. If somebody said, "Oh, that's really good. Next time my kid hits me, I'm going to kiss his fist." That's not going to work, right? It's where it comes from. It's where we pointed to, but it shifted our relationship in a way where before I always had to run around, you know, and say, "Come on, gotta go." And then I had to go a little bit higher. "Come on, we gotta go." And then the third one would be like, "For real, we gotta go," right? And then we go. And now it's more like, "Vince, we gotta go." And he goes like, "Okay." After that moment, But that's only possible if you see that even being hit in the face and whatever bad feeling you have about it is coming from you. It's coming from you. I could actually next time stay loving. And I don't know how to do it again. I wish I could do that all the time, because I've noticed that I have problems now when I go into the shower and asking for guidance. Like, you know, my worship place has been the shower. And I realize that's not so good, but it's what happens when you have such a good result, right? Your brain starts looking for, what was it? Oh, shower, giving up. Let's go in the shower and give up again, right? So, but that's what's available to everybody, to be able to do that, to have a position where you had to go in and perform at a job interview and you've been nervous, and maybe it doesn't go so well. Next time, maybe all you have to do is say, I have no idea how to do that better, but I'd love to be more of me when it happens next. I'd love to have that. And for some reason, the same spot, the same force, whatever that is behind life, just like when you cut yourself and it heals, it seems like I got cut and I healed. But I wasn't part of the healing in my intellect. The only thing the intellect could do was, please, I have no idea, but I'd love to come up with something better, but I don't know what it is. And kissing the fist that hit me was not part of the option. But that's what's available here. And I hope you guys are starting to see something. Because we all have that chance of having new thinking come out, new understanding come out, and it comes out of the blue. You don't know when it's going to come. They've done studies on it. Where do people get really good ideas that changes things? And it's when you're about to fall asleep, when you're in the shower, when you're transporting yourself back to work, when you're out in nature walking, sometimes other places, but a few days into a vacation is one of those where you get really good business ideas. But here's the weird thing. The thing that should be on the list but isn't is work. And that's a very, very strange thing, because it says something about leadership because they really want you to have those ideas on paid time. But anytime they push you and have like brainstorming sessions where you feel like I got to come up with something brilliant, that's not when you have them. It's when you relax into whatever this is. And just like Einstein said when he got asked, where do you get your most brilliant ideas from? And he said, I have no idea. The only thing I'm sure of is that it doesn't come from me. That's what he said. Then all the religious people jumped in and said, oh, then it's from God, right? But he was a scientist. All he said was, I have no idea. I have no idea. You can call it what you want. If you want to call it God, if you want to call it universal intelligence or quantum mechanical energy soup or whatever it is. But since it's formless, nobody knows, right? And it's important to understand that just because you can name something doesn't mean you know what it is. And it's very important when you believe something to know that you believe it, you don't know it. Because as soon as you think that you know it, you're going to start doing stupid stuff with people who doesn't seem to know the same thing as you. But if you're fine with the fact that it's just something I believe, but I have no idea, then you're not willing to kill for it anyway, right? But it's fine to believe things. We have a tendency as human beings to fill our ignorance with belief. It's a tendency we have, so it's hard to not do it. So my hope is that this has given you some inkling on how it works with performance, even though I talked about a lot of other stuff, because I think you perform as a mom and dad, and you have critical moments where it would be really good to do something better, right? And you have that at work, and you have that when you... But if you start seeing that other people, really the way they are when they're totally balanced is the way they truly are. If you could just start seeing that, and that actually goes for you. Because for me anyway, I was slow into this. I started seeing it in my clients that, oh, they're really good people. You know, even when they have bad thinking going on and they've done bad stuff, they're good people. They are the way they are when they feel good, right? And then it was like, oh, my wife, really? And then it was like, my children, really? But the last thing that dawned on me was, oh, me too? I couldn't see that. I thought, well, good for all of these people. But it's really the same for us too. And just starting to see that that's where you're coming from. That's who you are. That's the essence of you. And it's very easy. So I will finish my talk by doing this. Could you stand up for me just a little bit? Here's what I'd love you to do. Could you just stand where you feel like you're really balanced? Like if I came up and gave you a little push, any direction, I could push you. This is where you feel like, I'm in balance. I could stand and talk here for a while, right? Now here's my question. How did you find balance? What were you looking for? Try to go off balance and see what happens in your body. Can you feel this tension? So here's the weird thing about physical balance is that you're looking for the place that feels the least. You're not looking for the edges of where you feel stuff. You're looking for a place there. I'm in line with gravity. I'm in line with how the universe works. And if I go out of that, I have trouble, right? I have tension. Turns out, to me anyway, this is my view of it, coming from an athletic background, it's exactly the same up here. But we've been looking around the edges, right? Instead of looking for that feeling of, oh, that's where I feel the least. But we've been afraid of that because we think it's neutral. But it's not, it's the party mood. It's the party mood where you can go anywhere and it's going to be great. Right? The best place on earth is not a place. It's balance, well-being, whatever you want to call it. And as Dickens said, and that's my story and I'm not sticking to it. So I hope you found it useful. Thank you.